All right, how's everybody doing today? I'm Jeremy Langlois coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens. Sure, hope everybody is doing well there. And thank you for stopping on this video and checking us out. We're going to jump right in and do some cooking. So the dish that I'm preparing today is going to be a hanger steak with an asparagus salad. And the reason I decided to do this dish is I thought it was a cool, interesting twist on your classic combination of steak and asparagus. Oftentimes you go to a nice steakhouse, you get your filet mignon, you get your New York strip, you get your ribeye, and then you might have a side of asparagus. Classic combination, perfect, I love it. But I thought to myself, let's do a little twist on it and something that can be prepared differently, interesting, but still a great dish. And what I really like about this dish is, you know, beef prices, now if you're watching this today in 2021, beef prices have really started to skyrocket. And one thing that I love about cooking steak is there's all kind of different alternative cuts that you might not be aware of. Sure, we all know of our filet mignons, our ribeyes, and our New York strips. But, you know, today I'm going to be cooking a hanger steak. Now, a hanger steak is a cut of meat that's a little bit cheaper, a little bit tougher in quality because it comes from the plate cut of the beef. But when cooked very quickly, can have great flavor and be just as good. So let me show you what I got here. We're going to get this cooking first. And what I love about this dish is it's real time. Very little prep was done ahead of time other than cutting a little bit of onions, peeling a few asparagus. This is going to take minutes to put together. So let's jump right in. So here is my hanger steak. And you can see this is a thin cut of meat. Like I said, very similar to a flank steak, very similar to a skirt steak. All comes from the same cut of beef. And I'm just seasoning it very simply with some salt and pepper each side. And of course, fire up your grill if you're at home, if you got that. But I'm literally, because this is only going to cook about 2 minutes on each side, I'm just going to sear it very quickly in a hot black iron skillet. So got my salt and pepper on each side. I got my black iron skillet cranked up hot. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in there. Start to see that it's hot and smoking. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And I'm just going to get these browning. Got that great sizzle. Again, what we're looking for. And I'm just looking to cook this because it is so thin and I want mine a little bit medium or mid-rare. I'm just looking to cook this for 2 minutes on each side roughly, but you're going to cook it however you like it. Like your steak cooked a little bit longer, we'll cook it a little bit longer. So while that's searing, let's go ahead and talk about our asparagus. Now we are using, oh, I'm excited about we're using, you know, asparagus that we're used to, and we're also using some white asparagus. Now, white asparagus, this is literally the same vegetable. The only difference is someone discovered back in the day when cooking, when the asparagus started to pop out the ground, they would actually place pine needles over the asparagus that grow straight up out of the ground. And by putting the pine needles over the ground, it was this loose covering that blocked out the sun. And what that did was it allowed the asparagus to never develop chlorophyll, which would turn the asparagus green. So you get these nice white asparagus. But they're very similar. The effect that you get from it is they are a little bit similar. I mean, they're extremely similar, slight difference. I find with white asparagus, they've got a little bit more crunch to it, which I really like. But also, the outside kind of develops a little skin, which is a tad bit fibrous. So what I do is I peel my asparagus just very quickly. Just a quick peel on the asparagus just to get some of that fibrous off of them. And then also, normally when you buy asparagus, it would be long. What I do is I just give it a little pressure, and wherever the asparagus breaks, I discard this part because it's often fibrous and woody, and I save this part, which is going to be more tender. Peel this real quickly. Boom, we're ready to go. Now, I'm going to come over to my pot of water, and just like anytime you ever see cooking vegetables, we're going to boil these real quickly. You'll hear people say, cooked in boiling salted water, but they sometimes never go into detail. I think a lot of people just put a little bit salt in it. I'm actually decently generous with my salt. I'm not going to do this, but if I were to taste the water, I should taste a decent amount of salt in it. Because if you just put a little bit of salt in there, you're not doing much. But by adding a generous amount of salt, whenever we cook the asparagus in that liquid, it's going to soak some of it up and kind of season that asparagus, which is great. Then I'm going to take my peeled asparagus, which I have here. I'm going to make sure my water is at a rolling boil. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to drop these asparagus, boom, right into that rolling, boiling water. And I'm just looking to cook this, again, for about 2 minutes. just enough to where I got a little bit of a crunch or this, that, and other. I see my friend Jesse behind the camera has a question, which we love having. What you got there, Jess?
So, are you supposed to peel the green asparagus and the white, or just the white?
Jesse asked, do I need to peel the green asparagus as well? I am for this, just to keep them all consistent. But if I were just replicating this dish at home, I wouldn't. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's your choice. Peeling the green asparagus, I do like the presentation you get, but I find it doesn't change the asparagus that much. Oftentimes, the green asparagus are perfect how they are, but I'll leave that up to you. But if I were doing it at home, just using green asparagus, I probably wouldn't peel them. I do think it is critical, though, to peel white asparagus anytime you're cooking with them. Great question. Thank you for asking that, y'all. We love interacting with y'all. So while this is cooking, I'm just going to come over to my steak, give it a quick little flip. Again, 2 minutes on each side. My asparagus are doing their thing, so I'm going to set this to the side now. And now, because we're making an asparagus salad, well, a good salad has to have a good dressing. So let's go ahead and make the dressing. Again, all stuff I got at the store, all really easy. We're going to start off, oftentimes, you know, I love starting off with my Creole mustard, and I say Dijon's a great substitute. Well, I figured let's just go ahead and just stick right with the Dijon today. So I'm going to put a little bit of Dijon mustard in here. And then, like all dressings you make, or vinaigrettes, you got to have a little bit of vinegar. I'm using some champagne vinegar. So I'm going to add just a couple hits of this champagne vinegar in here. This is going to give it the acidity. And the reason we're doing champagne vinegar, again, guys, experiment at home. If you got Creole mustard or a spicy brown mustard and that's what you have in your cooler, that's fine. Use that. If all you have is red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, or even distilled vinegar, that's fine too. You can go ahead and use that vinegar in its place. But I like champagne vinegar. It's just a great neutral white vinegar, which has a great natural flavor to it. So I like that. So I'm going to mix these two things together just to give it a little bit of texture and a little bit of fresh crunch. I'm going to add just a little bit of fine diced shallots. If you didn't have shallots at home, you could forego this step. It's not critical, but it does add a little something to the dish. Or if you just have some white onions, fine dice those if you don't have shallots, and that'll be fine. Like any dressing we make, we're going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. And then over here, I actually have some hazelnut oil. And I'm just going to add a splash of that. The reason I'm adding two different oils is that hazelnut oil is going to add this neat kind of nutty flavor to it that's really perfect for this dressing. And that's it. If you don't have the hazelnut oil, don't stress it. A little salt, a little pepper as always. Or maybe something like a sesame oil would be a good substitute. Now again, since we're cooking both sides, once my steak is brown on each side, I'm going to move my steak over to the cutting board, let it rest for a second before I slice it. That is done. And then, I guess it's been about 2 minutes, so now we're going to come back to our asparagus. Now watch this. This is a critical part. Anytime we're cooking something and we want the cooking to stop very quickly, what I have here is a bowl of ice water. And I'm going to start taking these asparagus out. They've only cooked for a couple minutes, but now they're going to be still, I'm looking to have a nice crunch to the asparagus. Still looking for the green asparagus to have a nice, bright, vibrant green color. The white asparagus should have a nice, bright, vibrant white color. But they still should be, they still should have a little bit of crunch to them. Cooked, but a little bit of a crunch. They shouldn't just be like canned asparagus, which are kind of turning into mush. And I'm just taking them out, and I'm going directly into this ice water. Now, the reason we're doing that is, A, we want our asparagus to be cold, but by placing the asparagus into the ice water, it's going to instantly stop the cooking from the pot. Even if I were to take the asparagus out and say why they were still hot, and I were to set them on a plate, well, think of it. They're still going to be hot. They're still going to have steam. So that steam is going to cause the asparagus to continue to cook, even though it's outside of the pot. But by plunging it here directly into this ice water, I have effectively stopped the cooking process, and it's done. Now, guys, I told you this was easy. We made a very quick dressing with just a few different ingredients in it. Dijon, the hazelnut oil, champagne vinegar, little shallots, little olive oil, salt and pepper. We've seared off our steak. Again, we're using hanger steak, but any steak you have is going to be perfect. And now we've blanched off or cooked off our asparagus. So now we are ready to go to a plate and put this whole thing together. This would make a great lunch item. We're going to be serving this for lunch this weekend at Houmas house, or just a great dinner item as well. unintentionally because I don't worry about it too much, but this is also really healthy. And I really like the addition of the white asparagus with the green asparagus. I just find that they're interesting, and it has an interesting, just a little bit different than your regular asparagus. So I enjoy cooking them. So let's get some of these white. I'm not worried about mixing them up too much. They're all friends. But I am going to get some of these white, some of these green in there. Get some of these asparagus on my plate. I like a lot of asparagus, so I'm going to put a generous amount on there. Now I'm going to come back with this dressing we made. And I'm just going to kind of start to dress these asparagus. So whenever I cut into it, I got a nice little generous bit of dressing there that'll kind of sauce the whole thing. Now, I seared my steak and I allowed it to sit for a few minutes. You always want your steak to rest. And anytime you slice your steak, you'll always want to cut against the grain. So we're going to do that. And again, this hanger steak, because it's a thinner steak, all we had to do was sear it. If you were cooking a thicker steak, obviously just cook the steak to how you like your steak cooked. But I'm going to go ahead and slice this steak up, get some of this on here, and that's perfect. Let's start layering some of that hanger steak right here on top of that asparagus salad. And this just makes such an elegant, different take on your steak and asparagus, but something that's kind of light and crunchy and really refreshing. Now, up to you. This is how we are going to do it at the restaurant, because this is kind of a little bit of a salad too. It's so great. You go to the store and they have all these little different things, and whether it's lettuce or microgreens or sprouts, I was at the store. They had some of these nice sunflower sprouts, and since we are making a salad, that's going to just provide a great flavor and crunch and a lightness to this steak dish. So I'm going to add a little bit of those sunflower sprouts that I got on the store. Also going to add just a touch of these microgreens, if I can get the carton open, onto this. Just a little bit. These are really strong and have a really nice kick to them as far as their strength of flavor. So I'm going to get a little bit of that on. And even I like to, because we're doing a steak, I like to come back and hit it with just a little bit of that extra virgin olive oil we cooked it in. That's going to add a little bit of richness to the dish as well. Just a little bit, just a touch, just like that. And there you have it. We took something, a very modest cut of meat, that hanger steak, seared it up very quickly, and made an asparagus salad from both green and white asparagus. Really great, simple dish that anybody I feel can make at home. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit that share button if you made it here with me to the end. It does us such a great help. But other than that, thank y'all again for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.